now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. I am Tristan Miller, the Super Sleuth. I think is what we're going to go with.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Okay, what? Okay. Who is speaking to me? I don't even know who's talking yet.
Oh, wow.
No introductions
We don't
were had.
exist because we haven't introduced
It's
ourselves.
like a vampire thing.
I'm Tyler Riley, cop and a half. So about this name.
Okay.
And I'm Melissa Meli, the spy.
So we're not going with Super Sleuth? What do you want to go with?
I don't know, but like I'm not saying it's a bad name.
Silly Sleuth was introduced.
Saucy Sleuth was introduced
Saucy
at one point.
Sleuth.
Sloth.
didn't we?
Oh, yeah, we did go with Saucy Sleuth. I'm sorry, that's on me.
You seem disappointed.
No, I just...
Slapdasher Sleuth.
The reason I'm disappointed is because I let my friends down, not about the name.
Okay.
So today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/adcpod and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a free title and start listening. It's just that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/adcpod. The book I'm going to recommend is Stephen Fry narrated all of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes series. It's pretty good. Great to fall asleep to because it's a long blankety-blank book.
And you gotta have that good thing to fall asleep to.
Yeah, that's what I do.
You do.
Yeah.
And I can confirm that it is just as easy as going to audibletrial.com/adcpod.
You can? Have you done it?
I did. I wanted to try the link
Mm-hmm.
because somebody had asked me about it, and I gave them the wrong URL to begin with. And I was like, it's not working. And then I went back to listen to the beginning of our last episode. And I was like, oh, it's Audible Trial, not audible.com/adcpod. It's audibletrial.com/adcpod.
There you go.
One more time. That's audibletrial.com/adcpod.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about the novel 3-Act Tragedy by Agatha Christie. And this one was recorded by Hugh Fraser.
He's back.
He's back, our buddy, good friend of the show, Hugh Fraser.
Mm-hmm.
And it was originally published under the name Murder in 3 Acts in 1934. It's been adapted a couple of times, mostly as like TV movies. Once by Agatha Christie's Poirot, the TV series that we watch occasionally, or often, whichever. And both, yes. And once there was a 1986 television film as well. Yes, that relocated it to Acapulco.
As one does.
Yeah. It's fun to say.
Yeah.
Sounds like acapella.
It does.
Acapulco acapella.
It does a bit.
Archipelagos, that's a different kind of island. We're moving on.
It was, one of the stars of it was Tony Curtis, which is fun.
Tony Curtis. Is he playing?
So actually, I don't think so. I didn't look in depth, to be honest.
There's
However,
been a murder.
So they had the character Charles Cartwright, who is the actor in this, was actually an American movie star.
I see.
And I did not look it up, but I imagine that Tony Curtis played Cartwright. That is my instinct.
Less fun, but
Less fun.
that's fine.
They also replaced one of the characters, I won't say because it's a little spoilery. They replaced one of the characters with Hastings, which makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there's also been a radio production of it with John Moffat as Poirot.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So cool. Let's get into it. So we start off. We have these 3 friends discussing.
Na 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 na. Okay, it's fine.
What is that?
My Three Sons is a TV show from the early
Oh, okay. I thought you were
60s and 70s.
attempting the Three's Company theme, and I got really
Come and
confused.
knock on my door.
And I was like, that's not how it goes.
Super not.
No, it's super not.
That would be a very confusing thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've confused you, Tyler. We're all trying our best here.
We are.
So we've got Charles Cartwright, who's a former captain who's now to Do you always retain your captain title? I guess you do. We talk about Captain
Do you
Hastings
own
all the time.
a boat? If you own a boat, it makes you a captain? Or are you talking like in the military?
Like military.
Yeah.
But it's only, well, I mean, I feel like this happens a lot with...
like you would still refer to like President Bush as President Bush, even though he's not actively a president.
And
Yeah.
he did.
There's two of them.
W. Is
Oh,
still,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I thought you meant Herbert Walker.
No.
Okay. But yeah, that's, and I feel like it feels like a very British thing.
Yes.
Because general as well. Like, it's just forever.
Like in general, or like general.
General this
okay.
dude. General this dude.
General Mister.
Yeah.
Colonel Sanders is another example. He's been dead for a while, but we still refer to him as the Colonel.
The Colonel. The only Colonel. Captain Crunch. Also, I'm sorry, Captain.
Yeah, because he is not an official maritime officer.
He is a pirate of the high seas, a buccaneer, if you will.
Yeah.
Is he contracted by Her Majesty's Royal Service, though?
No, General Mills.
Oh!
Boom! Did it on him.
Oh my goodness.
That was very good, and we're stopping the podcast.
Yeah, we're done. That was it. That was it. So the first 2 minutes of the book.
They're talking.
So yeah, they're chatting about having some folks over to Charles Cartwright's for dinners, and he's an actor. And this is actually, the structure of this book is kind of neat. They set it up in 3 parts, where it's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and the last chapter is called Curtains, which I very much enjoyed.
Yeah.
That was a really clever thing that our friend Agatha Christie did. So we've got Charles Cartwright, his buddy Satterthwaite, Mr. S. We're going with, because forget it. I as I was listening to this, I could not conceive of how it was spelled.
He must be Welsh. I don't know.
There's just so many different T sounds in this name, all up next to each other. Forget it. And then Dr. Bartholomew Strange. Dr. Strange, guys.
Yeah.
His name was Dr. Strange.
Very fun.
I was very happy about that. They're chatting about this dinner party that Captain Cartwright is going to have. And so they also talk about Charles's servant, Miss Milray, who suggests that she dine with the party that night so there won't be 13 people at the dinner table.
Which is a nice callback.
Yes. And of course, the first time I've ever heard about this superstition is Harry Potter. So...
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is always what I think of. And the fact that this comes up more than once in Agatha Christie, which predates...
By a bit, yeah.
Joe and Kathleen Rowling. It's just wild, because I'm always like, oh, it's like in Harry Potter. It's like, no.
Harry Potter is like in this.
Yeah. But yes, so Miss Milray suggests she dine with the party that night so there won't be 13 at the dinner table. And so they discuss that Miss Milray has been around forever and that there have been rumors about Cartwright and her. And they go on for just like an exceedingly long time about how that is not even remotely possible because, my God, would you look at this woman's face?
Yeah.
Her face.
She's got one of those bad faces.
He says, not a woman's face. I wrote that down because it is a quotation, which is great.
What a good thing to say.
No woman would write about another woman this way.
Yeah. Because all women have solidarity, right?
We're not getting into that.
No, let's not.
Let's
We're
not.
not going to talk about the Women's March this past weekend?
Okay. So, no.
Oh, no. I don't think we can
we're
begin
not even going to
even...
open.
No,
Yeah,
we can't do that.
No.
So, okay, cool. So we then have a dinner party, and people are talking about all of the people at the party. And there's many people at the party. Some of them are important. Some of them are not.
Yeah. Who's to say? And the tricky bit is you don't know which ones are important and which ones aren't until much later in the book.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Uh-huh.
Crikey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So we have the three gentlemen who were speaking at the beginning.
Na 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 na.
Stop.
We are just not here for it.
I'm sorry. I like to have fun.
Christ.
And I've been declared legally dead.
Yep. Tristan's no longer here. He has a ghost. So there's a couple, the Dacres. There's Mary Lytton Gore and her daughter Hermione Lytton Gore, who is, or Lytton Gore, I forget. It doesn't matter.
Lytton Gore.
Okay.
Lytton Gore.
Who is known as Egg.
Which is dope.
Yeah, they call her Egg.
Egg. The way Hugh Fraser says Lytton Gore, he puts the emphasis on the last syllable, so it sounds like Egg Lytton Gore.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like the last name is Gore and her name is Egg Lytton, which is what?
So bizarre.
Yeah. Anyway,
there is an actress called Angela Sutcliffe, Mrs. Babington and Reverend Babington, Muriel Wills, who is a playwright, and then Oliver Manders, who is a young motorcycle mechanic, and he's really into Egg, as she is known throughout this entire
He likes egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love an egg.
And can I just say, I love the name Oliver.
Oliver's very good.
It's such a good name. And
Like Lawrence Oliver?
No.
And he wants to lay an egg, if you know what I mean. Am I right?
No!
Am I right?
Oh, no. That was disgusting but funny.
Gross.
Do you think he feels cooped up?
Oh, boy.
Oh, sorry, this is foul.
But she's not all she's cracked up to be.
Oh, what the shell are you talking about? Sorry, we're just yoking
Oh, we're
around.
easy now.
I hope you enjoy our egg pun
You
podcast.
know what we are? A couple of hard-boiled detectives. That's what we are.
Excellent. They never cracked this hard-boiled case.
Right open.
I'm leaving.
I got bigger things to fry. Woo! That was fun.
We have fun.
Sorry for poaching the conversation.
Oh, gosh. Oh, you traitor, you eggs Benedict. Arnold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a stretch.
And we're done.
And scene. Good night, everybody.
Okay, so, it's okay. Not much happens in this until, like, the end of the book.
For real.
Yeah.
But,
Listen, fam. I did want to say something about the party scene.
yes,
if you
please.
don't mind.
Oh, please
Say,
do.
listen, fam.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We're moving on. The way, and I have it written phonetically, the way Hugh Fraser says the word cantaloupe is cantaloupe. It just brought me such joy. I laughed out loud on the subway when he said cantaloupe. It's very good. And he uses a phrase, the phrase is used at one point, which I really enjoyed, called best pleased. Like, they won't be best pleased.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
that's
that.
really fun.
Ooh, yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
On a less nice note, at one point they're talking, when they're talking about the people who are at the party, two people are like, oh, they'd be a cute couple.
Uh-huh.
And at one point they say, oh, yeah, and they're quarreling, which is a healthy sign.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool, good. I'm glad. What? No. Stop. Huh?
Yeah. And the last person, I think, at this is a detective.
Oh.
Oh.
By the
All
name
right,
of...
I forgot he's in this book.
Yeah, we'll get to that. By the name of Hercule Poirot. And there's a lot of really weird, xenophobic, and racist, and
bigotry.
Lots of gross stuff that is just rampant throughout. I won't get into all of it, because
we don't have time.
I mean, it is a novel. But at any rate, so those are the folks that are at this party, and they're hanging out. We're talking about how Cartwright is into, he really likes egg, so does Oliver Manders, and does she make out with Oliver at some point? I think she does.
There's a bit of canoodling.
Yeah. It's strange. Anyway, so...
I mean, it's an actor's party.
That's true.
Yeah.
We've all been to those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all just briefly disassociated there for a second.
Yeah. Dear listener, if you've never been to a cast party...
Don't do it.
You don't need to. It's fine.
It's never worth it.
It's too much. Well,
never worth
that's not true.
When has that ever been worth it?
I feel a responsibility as the producer of a small theater company that regularly holds cast parties.
Don't
do it.
Don't do shows. Just don't go to the cast party.
Yeah.
We had a really fun time at the cast party for Veritas Times.
Well, that's good. That sounds nice.
There was a cast party?
Yeah, it was at Courtney's apartment. You made your dip. You helped me get
I had to leave early.
And you helped me get back on the subway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That was a very pleasant party.
Yeah, that was.
See?
Okay. My experience with cast parties has always been people just all the horny bad energy that actors have towards each other during a production gets unleashed at a cast
party. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was none of that in Veritas.
No, which is great.
Yeah, that's an ideal scenario what you're describing.
That's why I forgot about it.
Yeah.
There was no drama.
There was nothing to unleash.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. There was just no drama during that show.
Which sounds so pleasant.
It was so nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, yep. And then Mr. Reverend person, what's his name? Babington.
I was going to call him Babadook.
What?
Reverend Babadook. It's a weird twist for Agatha Christie. It's a horrible monster that's actually swallowed everything up. It's a paranormal thriller for the first time from a very famous author.
There's just a lot of stop plosives in his name.
Yeah.
Babington.
More like Babbleton, am I right?
Yeah, dang. Roasted.
Well, he takes a drink of a cocktail and dies.
Which, children, is what happens when you drink. Don't do it. You will die.
Only when you turn 21 and magical powers are bestowed upon you can you take your first
That is correct.
sip of alcohol.
The Pope shows up to your house and blesses you.
Oh, no, we can't use that because altar wine.
Oh, beans! my perfect lie.
That was the only hole in this plan.
And so
he's dead.
He died. And then the party basically ends because he died.
It also dies. He killed the party.
Right?
Yeah.
Ugh, what a rude.
So it's really, it's very abrupt because it's so, I'm like, that was the end of the second chapter.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I was so excited because they got into it, and based off of our previous novel where the murder took half the book to happen.
Yeah.
No. That's being generous.
That's fair. That is fair. But I was so excited. I'm like, great, we're in it. Great, the pace is up. And then, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point, I decided to write down this fun fact. Someone mentions that the new word that people keep throwing around in society, the new popular word, is penetrating.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah, so that was fun. Giggle.
Lol.
Lol. Sure. So a doctor comes in and says Babington probably had a seizure, natural causes. Maybe he even put something in his own drink and it was a suicide. But there was just no motive for anyone to kill this man.
Right. And the suicide thing really threw me because he was
strange.
a reverend, right?
Yeah.
And they were just so casually, oh, maybe he just committed suicide. I was he's a reverend.
Which seemed a bit irreverent.
Yeah.
Maybe he made a clerical error.
I mean, it is a pun podcast.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ah!
She did it
to us. But yeah, it was weird that they were like, oh, maybe he just offed himself. He was really odd. It's like, did he have any signs?
Right, and like,
so odd.
nobody really fought him on that. And I was just like, does
Yeah,
does anyone here go to church?
Not even his wife was like,
right?
what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
So, I mean, basically, they're just like, all right, he died. It's sad, but let's move on with our lives.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, part 2 opens with Mr. S, whose name I will never try to pronounce again.
Scatterthwaite.
Yeah, sure. Is reading the newspaper and finds out that their good buddy, Dr. Bartholomew Strange, has died.
Yes.
And a doctor, I believe, was there. Someone, or an investigator, came there, and they were like, oh, this actually does look suspicious.
Yeah.
This looks like this guy has been poisoned. But, like, it looks like he died in pretty much the same manner as Babington did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they look into the guest list and find out that, save Mr. S himself, Poirot, and Cartwright, it's the exact same guest list.
Yeah.
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 So they start looking into it, and they find out that there's a new butler at the home of Dr. Strange.
Yes.
So people don't know that much about him, and they're like, yes, please.
So there's a passage that I wrote down specifically, and it was, one character said, oh, the butler? I hardly noticed them. And I was so upset. I was like, you almost gave me this one.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we're like, all right, well, also Mr. S is a good friend of Poirot, and Poirot was otherwise occupied. So Mr. S is like, yeah, okay. He gets curious, and he starts to look into it with Cartwright as well. They start to look into it together. Meanwhile, actually kind of before this, backpedaling a little bit, we find out that Cartwright, after seeing Oliver and Egg, getting canoodling, he gets very dramatic and is like, I'm going to move away. I don't like...
Where was it? I don't want to be here. Or something?
Huh?
Where did he move to?
I don't know.
It was somewhere.
It was somewhere.
Monte Carlo, right?
Yes.
It was Monte Carlo.
Wait, no.
That's where Poirot is.
That's where Poirot is. Okay, I got a bit confused. But he was like, I'm going to go...
to this place.
Yeah.
Away. My heart. And whereas we are finding out also that Egg is in love with Cartwright
so thirsty.
as well.
So thirsty.
So
parched.
Yeah. And Egg is probably like, by the way, they do at some point mention that he is 30 years older than her.
Yeah.
And so I think that puts her approximately, just from what I'm gathering, her at about 20 and him at about 50.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Tyler, please talk. Please say words.
And it is said, like, sometime throughout the party, at several moments, that, like, Cartwright is around the age where he becomes interested in young women.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's all sorts of gross.
Yeah, it's nasty.
They talk about this so much. It's so gross. Like, they're just the way that they talk about, like, oh, yes,
oh, you're getting up there. Oh, you must be having an eye for the youngins. And it's just like, oh, gross.
Why?
And why is this an accepted thing?
Gosh. Yeah. So that's terrible. And happens often in this book. Yeah. So we do find out that she is in love with him or whatever, as
Quote,
well.
unquote.
And it's pretty clear to everybody. And so he's being very dramatic about this whole moving away. Anyway. I mean, not that age difference is necessarily a bad thing. However, in this particular case...
it's nasty.
It's...
It's pretty groovy.
It's worrisome because she is so very young.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be different, like, if she just, like, wasn't, like, a thirst bucket. Like, if she wasn't, like, a 7-Eleven big gulp over this 50-year-old man.
Sure. I gotta say, though, but there are some, like, instances modernly, and I feel this happens with actors a lot, specifically. There are a lot of instances that are present day of, like, hey, this actor is 50-ish, and they have a 25-year-old wife, and we just kind of like, yeah, I guess that's how that happens now.
Yeah, I mean...
Which is, like, also, I don't know, it's weird.
I just get concerned because when I was 20, I didn't know what I was doing.
Absolutely.
And when it's someone who's 30 and someone who's 60, I'm less weirded out by it, honestly. Because, and I mean, I don't know the actual age difference between them, but, like, I know that Patrick Stewart, who I love and adore, his wife is much younger than him.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, but she's, like, in her 30s or 40s or something. So I'm like, all right.
Currently?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Whereas, like, something like Jeff Goldblum dating and I think maybe being married to a 25-year-old yoga instructor is indicative of a personality. I think.
I don't want to cast aspersions, but it's just like I approach with caution.
Yeah.
Things like this.
Because it is also a big thing. It's a similar thing to, like, men who are in their 20s dating, like, trying to date a high school student. It's like, why does that man want to be with someone who is that so much younger and can't relate to them?
Right.
I'm 27, and, like, when I'm, like, on dating apps and, like, a 21-year-old messages me, I'm like, no, you're too young.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because, like,
not exact same.
In a few years, though, like, I would imagine that wouldn't matter as much. Like,
well, yeah, the older I get, the more desperate I'm going to become.
No, meaning that
I get
number of years age difference.
Yeah.
But, like, there's something about someone in their early 20s.
Yeah,
it's just
not so much an age as you are just in a different state of being.
Yeah.
At that point,
so malleable. And, like, confused and trying to figure out who you are and so impressionable with it, which is, you know...
Maybe I should reconsider, now that you put it that way.
Okay.
I would like to point out that Dr. Bartholomew Strange is not a medical doctor. He is a psychiatric doctor.
Oh, yes.
He's a nerve specialist. So he treats nervous disorders.
Yeah.
It's just... So he's not a doctor. He's a doctor. Give me the news.
Like, he went to medical school.
I guess, yeah, I get.
I wrote that down because, of course, in a while back, nerve disorders was it like this is probably not in the range of accepted psychiatric. Like, we're not talking about things that we would ascribe, we would diagnose today. Like, these are things that.
From my understanding, it was
problematic.
It was just kind of a catch-all term, meaning like you had a nervous breakdown, meaning that could mean you had an anxiety attack. It meant you had a psychotic break. It meant you were an alcoholic and had the shakes. Like, there's so much there. And so him being like a nerve specialist is like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like,
yeah, I cringed when I heard that term. And it also, I believe, was more associated with women.
Hysteria. Yeah. The whole idea. And like, ugh.
Yeah.
Very in the next room kind of a.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. But he's dead now. And
that was sometimes someone says something so funny I can't laugh. I just have to soak in how nice that was.
Oh, good. I'm glad that that's what that face was.
Yeah.
Because it was either Melissa, that was very funny, or Melissa, I'm so deeply offended, but I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, no. It's... that was nice.
Aw. I'm so glad you're savoring my funny joke.
Joke. And it got weird again.
Great. If it doesn't get weird, it's not our podcast.
Yeah. Specifically, it's not me.
Yeah. So yes, we're looking at Ellis, the mysterious new butler, at the home of Doctor Strange. And...
Because... Doesn't he just, like...
He disappears
after the murder.
There. Disappears after the murder.
Gone. Never... Not caught, not found, no trace.
Yep.
Completely gone.
So I think...
Is it time?
It's time.
Yeah,
it's time.
It's time.
Here we go. Here we go.
Part 2. So, Scatterwaith and Charles, because Charles is back. He didn't move away.
Yeah,
no.
He was like, oh, man, I just made a bloody mistake. I did. I guess.
That's not how he sounds.
No, he doesn't.
That's fine.
So they... Sure.
You're going to have so much fun editing this one, Tristan.
Insert theme of my 3 sons, or whatever the hell you were doing earlier.
Womp, 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 womp. That was me being sad.
Oh, boy.
I know, I was basking in it.
Mm-hmm.
So the two...
Here lies Tristan, a ghost killed by one friend, and then soon after another.
I mean, isn't that how you really want to go, though?
Yeah, absolutely. If one of you killed me, I'd be like, okay, this makes, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'd let it happen.
So Satterthwaite and Charles are searching Ellis's room. Everything was very neat in the room. Things looked to be unbothered. It also seemed that Ellis disappeared wearing his butler uniform, and it is remarked that a true gentleman would have changed into a suit before leaving the premises.
Oh, that's fun.
They take a look at his desk and see that a pen is missing, and that the ink seems old and drying, and that he hasn't seemingly has not used his blotting paper in quite some time. Mm-hmm. They spoke with other members of the staff and left. So Satterthwaite has a deep think about their investigation and comes up with the conclusion that Ellis suffered from corns because of things they found in the room.
Yeah, which is pretty whack, I think.
Just like, what? What is happening in your mind and life, Agatha? The only other thing that they thought about is the way that Bartholomew sent away his butler. They reviewed the events leading up to Bartholomew's behavior before his death, deducing that his odd behavior must have stemmed from an upsetting phone call he had. The two decide to investigate and travel to the sanatorium. Mm-hmm. Charles recalls that something struck him as odd, but he couldn't remember what when thinking on Ellis's room. So they arrive at the sanatorium and ask about Drushbridger.
I hardly know her. Drushbridger is very fun to say, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a name that I got confused about when Drushbridger was first brought up.
I mean, it kind of doesn't... She sent a telegram to Poirot at some point.
Yes. Yes. Asking, to speak with him or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they arrive at the sanatorium, and they say that she cannot take visitors, that she is under strict observation. We also learn that for whatever reason, she came from the West Indies.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this may be important, this might not.
It wasn't.
It was not important.
Hey, it turns out a lot of this book.
I know, that's what's so difficult about taking notes on these things, is that, you just don't know until it's done what's going to be good evidence.
They all relent, meaning Scatterthwaite, Charles, and the staff, they relent about the death of Dr. Strange. Charles then remembers how odd he found an ink stain in Ellis's room. The ink was along the skirtboard on the far side away from the writing table. They come up with several theories once they return to the house on how the stain came to be. Then Cartwright decided that Ellis was acting under guilty conscience, and that he was writing, and he felt he had heard something, and he freaked out and was like, what am I going to do? And he's being real guilty. He's acting as Ellis. Cartwright is acting as Ellis, and performing in front of Scatterthwaite, and
this character
drops the pen at the precise moment and position where the ink blot stain was.
Oof.
and says, well, something must be underneath the gas fireplace.
My goodness.
And sure enough, they find letters written in Ellis's hand in which he intends to blackmail the murderer.
There we go.
Cartwright bemoans the lack of gendered pronouns in the letter.
Oh.
Because it could be a man or a woman.
Oh no, how will we ever survive?
Only.
Oh, yes. The two genders, innocent and uninnocent.
But Satterthwaite is happy to conclude that Ellis is not the murderer because he was blackmailing the murderer. They then
it couldn't
travel
possibly
to...
be a red herring.
Well, it's not communism.
That's fair. Clue.
Yeah.
That was recording.
They then go to speak to the superintendent of the nearest police station. They speak on their discovery and they muse on the death of Babington, and they plan to exhume the body to discover the cause of death to see it was the same nicotine poisoning.
So, can I just interject for a moment?
Yes.
That Agatha Christie, when I researched her for Historical Hotties, also part of the Scavengers Network, Agatha Christie dealt with poisons a lot, and my goodness, in her novels, does she like to talk about different poisons. Like, she writes a novel and it's like, okay, which poison am I going to use for this one? Because I know all about all the poisons.
Do you think she was just throwing just a dartboard with different poisons?
Maybe,
This novel, I have to write a novel surrounding, oh man, it's iocane powder, I guess, this time.
Yes.
Not a real poison.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've spent years building up an immunity.
Okay.
I
didn't want to.
That's great. We listened to old episodes. So, Cartwright and Satterthwaite meet with Egg, who seems to be suffering greatly following the murders. She's very frail and fraught with anxiety, but apparently still as charming as ever.
This girl is not frail. What a word. She's never frail.
Well, that's how she is described in this time.
I know, but Agatha, you did a bad job with that one. Because
hey, Agatha, you're listening.
From beyond the grave.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a seance here.
Anyway. Just having a hard time.
After dinner, they decide to go to Satterthwaite's house. They recount their investigation to Egg, who asserts that Ellis is dead because he discovered somehow and knew too much and was murdered. She theorizes on how Ellis's body may have been moved about the house or out of the house. They then talk about Oliver and how he may or may not have faked an accident of some sort involving his car. It's just for Dolores' sake.
There's lots of speculation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Star Wars Twitter level of speculation here. It's just... This doesn't even seem founded on anything. Snoke committed the murder, it turns out.
Oh, Star Wars Twitter. What a weird
Something
place
more we
on the
can
internet.
tag. So she's just going through and just talking to talk, trying to impress Cartwright, and he finally is just like, well, I'm out of here. This is just this is far too much. And then Edgar's like, no, you and I, we must get to the truth. We must. And then Satterthwaite was like, me too. And she was like, okay.
I was really hoping that was just going to be me and Charles here, but okay. That's so funny, because there is a moment like, fine, you've convinced me, and they both turn to him like, oh, you're still here.
That's right, yeah. I remember that. It was really fun. Oh, man.
So then they all conclude that it is the same murderer and that they should start with the first murder. They then theorize on general motives for the murder, Cartwright pushing a very confusing and long-winded example of what one might have seen, which would then have caused them to be murdered after the first murder. Mm-hmm. It's just, it takes half a chapter, and I'm just like, I'm not here for this.
Meanwhile, Poirot is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate.
Oh, we're going to say that a lot through the next bit of what I have to say.
What I will say, and I will let you... Calling this an Hercule Poirot mystery is like calling it's like calling Force Awakens a Luke Skywalker movie.
Yeah.
It's about the same percentage. Talked about a lot, and then more like 2 scenes.
Yeah. Poirot's in a little bit more of this than Luke was in Force Awakens, but not.
Fortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cartwright is going on and on about, like, his theory that, like, has nothing to do with anything, really. And Egg is over there, like, just being a thirsty...
You made me bump my microphone. I was so shocked. From my hand to my mouth. She's in it.
She's so, like...
Parched.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Just in the middle of the Sahara.
Like, yes.
Weird.
Oh, and I was just about to use that example. Like, we're here.
Yeah, we're like, wow.
So then they decide to cross-reference the guest list of both parties, finally doing something of
productive
use.
Yeah.
And they write them all down.
Egg gets flustered when she thinks that Cartwright believes her to be interested in Oliver.
Which, frankly, at this point, I am. Like, over... Anyway.
I will also say, like, this. I know we discussed the age difference stuff, but you're both adults. You're both single. Just just do something.
Yeah, like, why are we beating around the bush? Why, indeed. Anyway, continue.
Tyler and I shared a look when he said beating around the bush.
Oh, goodness.
All right, thank you, James from Team Rocket. So Charles and Egg visit Babington's widow, who laments about the possibility of murder and is really unbothered by the exhumation of her husband. Cartwright reveals that when he heard the news of Babington, he thought he was murdered much like Bartholomew. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Poirot is still not here. Also, Scatterthwaite went to have tea with Lady Mary, mother of Hermione. Mm-hmm. She said...
Who is Egg, by the way, for future reference, because, of course...
They, oh my gosh. Nickname. For a long time, I thought Bartholomew and Doctor Strange were two separate people, because the way they just keep interchanging, names, but, through certain parts of the book.
It's like a Russian novel.
So we're at tea with Lady Mary.
Lady Mary.
Who talks about women and says during the conversation that she believes that women often get caught up because they believe they can reform a bad boy. At this point, give side eye to Egg, who is not in the room, but I'm like, girl, you're talking about your own daughter.
Yeah.
And you don't even know. You don't even know.
Also,
you know what's really, really cool that we've kind of realized in society? It's no one's responsibility to reform someone but that person.
Yeah, you can't reform those who don't want to be reformed.
It's true. It's true.
But gosh darn, I'm going to try.
Yep. I mean, there's support, and then there's oh gosh.
It's a tricky tightrope line to walk. Because someone's got to tell this person, but at the exact right time, so that they can actually hear it and absorb it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This also revealed that they couldn't think of anyone who would have done harm to Babington, except maybe Oliver. Oliver once exclaimed that he hated the church and the two had quarreled. Mm-hmm. And then Poirot returns from England.
Yay! We're so happy.
Little egg-shaped head boy.
So glad to see you.
Poirot decides to join the investigation, much to Egg's chagrin.
Yeah. Whatever. We're all much happier for it.
I do love, like, he just rolls up. He's like, I came to apologize. You were right. Someone was murdered because I didn't think they were.
Yeah. And, like, Poirot, like, asks Egg, like, straight up, like, to her face, like, would you mind if I joined the team? But Poirot, with his semi-feminine sensitiveness.
Yeah.
That's a literal quote from the book. Understood that she was upset that he might spoil her chance with Cartwright.
I'm silent screaming, by the way, just so everyone's aware.
Can we take this brief moment to talk about the coding of Poirot as well?
Let's do it. No time.
Like the present. No time like 50 minutes into a podcast.
Oh, God. Are we there?
Yeah.
Oh, we still have so much to go.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be a long one. I've already just accepted that. But no, like, Poirot, I think, in general, is coded in a certain way that in the time in which these novels were written, like, he's unmarried, he's very fastidious, he's fashionable, and he's sensitive. So I think he's coded to be a homosexual. I don't know, though.
Okay. I never got that impression.
Okay.
I think that all of that is kind of explained by his being Belgian. Okay. I know, and I say that, I'm saying that with a face because that's also not great. Yeah. But, like, I think that that's much more what they're like. I don't think that they're trying to that Agatha's trying to paint him as homosexual, because I think that she's trying to paint him as
an other
in a different way.
Yeah, I can see that. Similarly to, like, when we have British people on American TV, they're often assumed to be more feminine and sophisticated and what have you.
Yeah.
Which is another thing as well. But it's kind of similar. Did you guys see Phantom Thread?
No.
Oh,
I know.
It's a perfect movie.
Wow. All right.
Daniel Day-Lewis is also is coded in a very similar way, where he's not homosexual, and because he's falling in love with a woman, but he's very dainty and he's like a dressmaker, and it's very interesting. And I don't know. It's just. I don't know. It's just very interesting to think the optics of it, because one could interpret it that way, and it could be fine.
Yeah, and it's all about kind of examining the assumptions that we make about stereotypes, honestly. And like, at this point in my life, and for many, many, many years now, I've been considering the idea that being sensitive is feminine is gross and problematic.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
So.
I would agree. I think it's also interesting that, and I just made this realization now of, like, both the characters I mentioned also can be coded to have obsessive compulsive disorder, of, like, because, like, Monk is basically Poirot. It's just like the same way House is Sherlock, and it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting thing of, like, I think it comes from the assumption that, like, women are more tidy than men as well, and, like, more particular.
Yeah.
Which is also not true.
No.
As a man who is particular, you wouldn't necessarily notice it.
No.
The two eggs at the beginning of Murder on the Orient Express, I'm like, yes, this. Anyway.
Yeah, the first time my boyfriend and I stayed in a hotel together, I noticed him lining up his shoes, and I was like, oh. Okay. Interesting. That's a thing that we're gonna. Okay.
Do you think they could also be military?
Yeah.
That's also probably true. However, like, he was also. I'll keep a cabinet open until I'm done with it, and then sometimes I forget that I'm not. And, like, he would, like, go behind me and close cabinets, and I'm like, okie doke.
Yep. Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong with either of those things.
Yeah. It's just interesting.
And it's also interesting that Poirot was a police officer for a very long time, so maybe the fastidious comes from that, and, like, keeping a uniform neat.
Yeah, but I also think that there is something in Poirot that
is the en balance, as it were.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Satterthwaite fills in Poirot on what they have discovered thus far. Poirot being particularly pleased with the discovery of the letters. Poirot questions the type of court glass. That doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
Well, that's true.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
So, like, they talk and talk.
They do. There's so much talking.
There's
Poirot then, and this made me so mad.
Okay.
That I had to stop listening to the book for an hour. I got so mad about this. Poirot, like, it's just him and Satterthwaite at this point where I'm picking us back up. Poirot decides to give Cartwright a hand in getting with Egg by making it seem like he's leading the investigation.
Yes.
Saying that when the murder is solved, it will be Charles to be the one who solves it.
Now, here's my thing. I understand it's nasty and gross and bad, but I understand because if he were to take the lead on this case, both Egg and Charles would probably hinder the investigation / ask him to leave. I think it's one of those necessary evil sorts of things.
Okay, fine.
And I think Poirot is more interested in solving a case than he is about any social things.
That's true.
He's like, I need to solve this case in order to do the
way in which it was told to us by Hugh Fraser himself.
How dare you?
Led me to believe that it was very much social. But I digress.
I will say, speaking of, there's a lot of talking in this book, and Hugh does a very, very fine job of distinguishing voices. So, props to Hugh.
Yeah, he does. It makes it bearable.
I agree for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
All right.
Poirot reviews the guest list again. Okay, I had a slip.
I
Don't
know,
give me that.
It was really fun. It was really cute sounding, Poirot.
Poirot reviews the guest list once again. And looks at how the names are written down, saying the name at the top is the one who would be the most convenient to have committed the crime. And they're like, no, like we just wrote names down.
But then it turns out.
Yeah.
It turns out that they did kind of write it down in a particular order. And it's kind of interesting. Like, that is a fun little psychological examination that they do. Yeah. And a couple of the characters, I'm like, who? Oh, right, that person. Did they go visit the playwright yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, crap. Okay. Maybe not. Maybe this is when it happens. I got really lost and confused at some point, and I picked it back up when Egg is in a dress shop.
Yes, Egg.
So I'm missing from just there to the dress shop because I got confused and lost.
I don't remember.
They all split up and investigate different people. At one point, they go visit. It's not Cartwright. It's the other guy. What's the other fellow's name in the investigation?
Satterthwaite?
Yeah, Satterthwaite visits the writer.
Yeah, the playwright.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Wills.
Wills, yes.
Yeah.
And they have a long discussion, and he's like, did you notice anything weird about the butler specifically? And she's like, oh, there was a birthmark on his arm.
Yes.
Other than that, it was just, he was so ineffective. But between that and he just seemed a little, she actually says he seemed a little odd. And then this other servants said when they interviewed him, he did things differently than any butler I've ever seen in my life. Yes. It didn't make sense, and it was weird.
Yeah.
But he seemed to have a lot of experience and know a lot of things about the high-class society, so one would assume that he was actually a butler. But so Satterthwaite goes and talks to them. In the meantime, Egg...
Yes, Egg is now at the dress shop owned by Mrs. Dacre.
Yes.
So they're talking about a bunch of dresses and things. And during this conversation where it seems like Egg is about to blow like a whole bunch of money at the store, it is revealed to us, the audience only, in a weird way, that Egg only has a balance of £15 to last her to December. I also don't know what time it is in the year. Does anybody know?
I don't know, and I don't remember the scene.
We're going to say it's January.
She has one full year with 15 pounds.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Egg tries to speak to Mrs. Dacre about Bartholomew's death, And Dacre seems to, like, not care or hear her when she's, like, talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
She eventually leaves the store and goes on a walkabout around town.
Mm-hmm.
Noting the time, as it seems she has something to do at 1 p.m., and that is not revealed to the audience until 1 p.m. approaches.
Mm-hmm.
When she approaches Doris Sims, a worker in the dress shop, and Egg inquires her about the dressmaking industry, saying that she's, like, writing an article in a paper.
Yeah.
She asked if she had fooled Mrs. Dacre about the amount of wealth that she had when visiting the store. They chat for a bit. She did fool Mrs. Dacre. She inquires about Mrs. Dacre's wealth and how well the shop is doing, and it is revealed that the shop is in dire straits. The conversation then moves to Dacre's husband, and Doris muses that Dacre might have committed the murder.
Because she is ill-tempered.
Yes. Egg asks if she heard of the other victim. She did not. Egg then departs to St. John House to speak to Mr. Dacre, who is drunk and invites her out for a cocktail elsewhere.
Yeah.
The word of the two murders is seemingly making the rounds, as Dacre, like, is already very much aware of what we as the audience, we as the readers know of the murders.
Yeah, the Dacres were at both parties, by the by.
Yeah.
It is revealed that Strange is not thought on fondly by Dacre.
No.
And he apologizes to Egg, as his wife has told him not to speak on it, as to not arouse suspicion.
Which, of course, sounds suspicious.
Yeah. Egg asks him about de Rushbridger and says Strange had mentioned her, but he doesn't know too much beyond that. The morning after Strange died, he says a woman appeared in his room. Yet Mrs. Dacre, his wife, told him that he must be imagining it. But he strongly believed there was a woman in his room.
Okay. That's right.
Egg departs his company, and she muses on if Strange was murdered at all, and comes across Charles' secretary, and they find in the paper that the exhumation of Bartholomew's body confirms murder. The secretary discloses she had trouble writing to Babington's widow, given all that has happened.
Yeah.
And the secretary,
she says something.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which is, now I don't know what to do. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And that closes the chapter.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, because at some point they go and visit this secretary's mother. Is that's a bit later, though?
That's a bit later. Yeah.
Okay. Because she was supposed to be taking care of the mother. Like, was going to take care of the mother, right? And at some point it's mentioned, I wrote this down, and I just wanted, before I forget, that, because I think Cartwright himself goes to see the mother, and the mother refers to Miss Milleray as Violet.
Yes.
And he thinks of Violet. That doesn't seem like a name she should have, like, with her, with her temperament, with her, like, strong-willed temperament. And it's like, how did you not know her first name the entire time she's been in your employ?
Yeah.
What? That's buck wild.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Absolutely. It's indicative of the ego of the man. And then from there, from my understanding, Poirot receives a telegram from Mrs. de Rushbridger, who is a patient in a sanatorium.
Correct.
That is linked.
This is when
this happens.
Then where did we find de Rush? Like, when did
she had just been mentioned?
Okay.
During the course of the party, I believe.
It's odd.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it's kind of seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But they go to visit her. Cartwright and Satterwaith do, and she's dead, which is a bummer, because now they have like 3 confirmed murders and 1 presumed,
because Ellis is nowhere to be
found. Yeah.
And it does turn out that someone sent Mrs. de Rushbridger chocolates.
Yes.
And they were poisoned with nicotine.
Yeah, so it's the same.
Same poison.
Yeah. And then, learning about this, Miss Melray, who's the secretary.
Yeah.
Just gets up and leaves. She's like, okay, I'm good. I think there's too many people dying around me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm cool. Right. And then they assemble another dinner party. Poirot calls a dinner party.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
And then they're all speaking, they have a toast, and Cartwright falls down, presumably dead.
But before that... But in that same dinner party, before that... Okay. I have two things.
Okay.
Satterthwaite and Sutcliffe sounded too similar to me.
Okay.
I think he did a very nice job with where we know these people to be from.
Sure.
But the pitch was too similar for both of them.
Okay.
Where I was having a real hard time trying to figure out who was speaking when, and it was like,
okay,
I got a little lost there. Other than that, top-notch job. Hugh, love everything you do. Just not quite this as much.
Doing lots of voices is hard.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It really is.
There are a lot of characters in this one.
Very challenging. And until this conversation, there wouldn't have been a problem because there's not much interaction between the two.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're at the made-up dinner party.
Yes, that Poirot.
And Mrs. Willis is recounting the events.
The playwright.
Yes.
Yes.
And I thought Hugh did a brilliant job. I'm not going to ruin the ending. But he does a brilliant job in this moment where Mrs. Willis is recounting the events and she's having trouble figuring out where she entered from. And so she's sitting where she believes she sat, and there is like a tray, and she's like, Charles, can you bring this tray over, like you were serving, the hors d'oeuvres or whatever.
Yeah.
And when he does that,
Charles,
and it's not said in the book, but the way that Hugh does it disguises Charles's voice, puts him in a deeper tone for just that one moment as he's serving Mrs. Wills.
Yes.
And I will just say that.
Okay.
Yes. And then Poirot goes, okay, everybody, a toast. I'm gonna talk about wine. And then they drink. And then Charles falls down. And everyone thinks he's dead. And then everyone reacts. Egg's very upset.
Oh my gosh.
He calls him Charles instead of Sir.
Yeah, which is, big deal.
Yep.
And then he's just playing around.
Yeah, I kind of got lost in what that whole thing was. This whole him falling over, because he then he gets up real quick afterwards, and it's like, oh nope, I'm not dead yet.
What happens was, it's kind of foreshadowed because Poirot goes, okay, I'm gonna you guys go set up a party, send up all the invitations. I have to talk to Mr. Cartwright about something.
Sure.
And so Poirot asks him to do it, to see how people react to it, which he says later on as well. Because
I'm just lost in his motivation for Charles's motivation for faking it. Well, I know his, but it seems really strange because it's was he testing Egg? Was he trying to see if how she would
asked
react?
him to.
Oh, Poirot asked him to do this.
To.
To
be like, hey, I need your help.
It wasn't his idea.
No,
it was Poirot's idea. That makes so much more sense. Yeah.
And after this, basically, what happens is a very extended scene, I believe, of Charles and Egg talking and going, I love you too. Oh, this
good,
is...
we're gonna get married.
We're gonna get married. And then Poirot's like, hey, I need to talk to everybody in one room with a fireplace, please.
Well, first...
okay.
It's okay. This is very quick. Hard. No. Just very quickly, he sees that Miss Milray is about to go set a fire, go make a fire or something.
Mm-hmm.
And right before she sets the fire with, I think, some things, she's going to set some stuff on fire. And And Poirot says, wait, because I believe you're about to destroy some evidence.
Oh, right.
And I think this is where we should take an ad break.
Yes. Hey everybody, it's Tristan, the Saucy Sleuth. I think we're going to go with Saucy Sleuth. It's official. Saucy Sleuth. Slossy Sleuth. Letting you know that you should check out all the other great programming on the Scavengers Network. Go to scavengersnetwork.com and you can check out their YouTube videos. There are other podcasts that they have, like Historical Hotties, on which Melissa and myself have been, Spooky Spouses, and another one that I can't remember right now. Oh, Myth Takes. Yeah, that's the one. It's good stuff. You can also support us on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/TristanJMiller. We're trying to get a new mic set up so Melissa and Tyler don't have to huddle over one microphone, because we're all adults here and we deserve some comforts. And here's a word from our sponsors.
Today we are sponsored in part by Warby Parker. Warby Parker was founded with a rebellious spirit and the lofty objective to offer designer eyewear at a revolutionary price while leading the way for socially conscious businesses. The eyewear industry is dominated by a single company that has been able to keep prices artificially high while reaping huge profits from consumers who have no other options. And so, Warby Parker was started to create an alternative. Good eyewear, good outcome. Prescription eyeglasses starting at $95. Find a new pair today with our free home try-on program. Fast, free shipping both ways. For every pair sold, a pair is distributed to someone in need. Just go to bit.ly/cscav. That's bit.ly/SEESCAV for more details.
Sennheiser is shaping the future of audio. A vision built on a 70-year history of innovation and a continued drive for excellence that is woven into our company's DNA and culture. Here are a few reasons why to shop at Sennheiser.com. Free shipping and returns on all orders with no minimum purchase required. There is a Sennheiser for you, offering high-quality design and the legendary Sennheiser sound. Get top-of-the-line wireless headphones for high-quality sound anywhere you go. Items arrive in 3 to 5 days in continental U.S. with UPS. Just go to bit.ly/Scavheiser, bit.ly/SCAVHEISER to start looking for your next headphones or microphone upgrade today.
Poirot calls everybody into a room with a fireplace and a big chair.
Yes.
It's très dramatique.
And it's the
about
best
to go down.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the best chapter of the entire book.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yep.
Because
Not just because it was the final one.
Yeah.
But
No, because it was classic Poirot.
yeah. No. It
And
was peak Poirot.
Yeah.
he does a whole monologue outlining basically everything. And I gotta tell you guys this thing that I did, because I was being introduced to like 7 characters right in the same, like they bullet point them, and I was like, I'm not writing these down. Oh no, I'll just go to the Wikipedia and I'll look.
Yeah.
Now, listeners, if you have not read this book, don't go to the Wikipedia.
No.
Because the second name is the person who did it, and I read that. I was like, oh, man.
So you ruined the book for yourself.
Accidentally, yes.
Like in the last chapter when you were about to hear it. That's so frustrating.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. No, sorry. It happened like 2 chapters in.
Oh, when you were at the party.
At
Oh,
the
no.
Party. And I was like, oh, shoot. Because I like to try and do a dossier on everybody anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the whole time I'm just like, what leads to this? Which is actually kind of fun in its own way, but it's kind of a bummer. But basically, Poirot is like, Charles did it. Just points at Charles, is like, Chuck did it.
Yep.
And Chuck goes over to him, leans over Poirot, is like, ha ha ha, very funny. Prove how I would do such a thing. And he's like, okay, so basically, you only wanted to kill Strange, and then you were just doing a rehearsal with the first party. It did not matter who you killed in that.
Yeah, that was such an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So he lays it out because at first Poirot didn't think that Babington was murdered.
Yeah, because it seemed so no motive.
Yeah, and he was older, so could have had lots of stuff wrong with him. Okay, fine. But then when Strange was killed, he's like, oh, well, maybe these two are related. And then he kind of like goes back around to being like, no, it seems like Strange would have been murdered first.
Yeah, which
is fascinating.
He talks about a concept of like the primary murder and something like this, and most people assume the first murder is the primary murder. And then that person, the second murder, is based off of something they overheard or like some information that they had to get rid of. Yeah. Whereas in this case, the primary murder was was the second murder. Yeah. And then the third murder was tertiary to the second.
Yes.
And the first was tertiary to the second murder, which is very interesting.
So, it's easier to clear up. Mm-hmm. So Bartholomew Strange, who was Cartwright's friend for a very long time, was the primary murder. We don't know the motivation yet, but we figure that out. And then it's like, then Poirot figures out, okay, Mrs. de Rushbridger, she is murdered, basically as a red herring.
Mrs. de Rush Hour.
So what? Yeah. So Poirot wanted us to, not Poirot. Charles wanted us to assume that she had something to tell. Yes. Which is why she was murdered, but Poirot was like, she knew nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Which is why she had to die, because if they asked her anything, it would come up bunk.
Right.
And so.
Nice use of bunk. I haven't heard that in a minute.
Thank you. But it is revealed over the course of the novel as well during Egg and Charles's infatuation.
Yes.
That Charles's name is a stage name that he legally adopted. His original name is Charles Mugg, which he changed because in this time period, Muggs means like a rube or an idiot. Yeah. Which is something we don't talk. I was like, why you would want to be associated with being a cup? Like, right. I don't. But, so he changed it legally. Now.
So.
Based off of that, Poirot. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah. It's always interesting because Poirot goes about revealing all of this stuff in such a beautiful way, and this is like Agatha's best work. Like she's so good at laying it out in such a way that it's all the twists and turns of Poirot's mind, and it's really fun. So it's hard to know as we're recounting this to remember like, oh, which thing did she reveal first? Yes. Which way did Poirot's brain turn? Go ahead, Tristan.
Okay. From what I remember, the next thing he brings up is, okay, so if his name is different, who would have known that his name was different? His lifelong friend. His lifelong friend is a doctor.
Yeah.
In a sanitarium.
Yeah.
Okay, why would that matter to Charles Mugg? Oh, in his records on the sanatorium, there is records of, I can't remember her first name, but basically Mrs. Mugg.
Yeah.
He's already married. So Charles is already married, but didn't want anybody to know, so he killed the one person who did.
Right, because in that time, it wouldn't have been possible for him to get a divorce from her.
Yes.
In order to marry someone else.
Yeah, which is part of the logic of getting to the fact that he was married, because he's like, Poirot is like, okay, there are two legal reasons why you can't get divorced. I can't remember. Prison and an insane asylum.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, it's probably, like, he looked at a prison, nothing. And he looked at the insane asylum, okay, it's there. And then Bartholomew Strange was linked to that.
Right, because he was linked to the asylum, but also,
he would know about it.
Would know about it because he was Cartwright's oldest friend. And so Poirot also brings up, why would Cartwright play dumb as to the fact that Egg is obviously infatuated with him? Like, why would he be so dramatic and ridiculous about this? It's like, oh, because he's trying to figure out a way to get Strange out of the way before she agrees to marry him, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then it's like, okay, so that brings us back to this first murder of Babington.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what in the...
How is that related at all?
Because there's this whole, the mechanics of the dance around who would have been giving him the cup. And it's like, well, it doesn't make any sense. And finally he figures out, there were only 3 people that Charles wanted to make sure weren't murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't care who else died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to make sure it wasn't him, obviously.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure it wasn't Egg.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to make sure that it wasn't Strange in this situation because he was holding himself a little dress rehearsal.
Yes. Which is very funny in a weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for the second, the murder of Bartholomew Strange, Charles dresses up as Ellis the butler, hence him disappearing because he's not a real person.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only person that really noticed was Wills, because she is an author.
Yeah.
And takes up anything, and she's described as very meek and unobtrusive as a person, someone who you would not notice unless, like, you were really looking.
But very observant.
But hyper-observant because of that fact.
Yeah.
And so that is why it's so key that she gets interviewed, and the mole on her, that person's arm, on Ellis's arm is important, which is a thing that Charles added in. He added it using makeup, so if anyone,
And that's why Hugh's brilliant choice, when Wills is recounting the evening, disguises on behalf of the voice character he's playing, gives him a completely different tone for the first time in the book.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So smart. Yeah. I didn't even notice that. That was really interesting. That was a well observed, Tyler. Well noticed.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and of course Miss Milray, who was the secretary.
Yeah.
Was in love with Cartwright, and so she was trying to cover up, which is why she was about to burn some evidence.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was.
But she also noticed right away because they make a casual reference to this when the idea of nicotine poisoning is first introduced into the novel, where she's like, "Oh yeah, I use it to as a roses spray for insects. I didn't know that it could kill people though." And then it's found out that she, does all the invoices for Charles, and he has bought so much of this spray to kill 3 people, which is kind of like someone who has just too much bleach in their house, and you're like, okay, so what are you doing? At this point, it's really messed up what Poirot does. He does this a lot, and I don't know if I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Basically, Charles Cartwright is like, well, fine. Damn you to hell. And then he walks out. And the guy's like, aren't you going to go after him? And Poirot's like, no, he's going to take care of himself. He's either going to pick being in prison or he's going to pick the quick way out. And I'm like, yeah! This happens a lot at the end of Agatha Christie novels where the person who commits the murder just, offs themselves.
Yep.
And it's, I think, very problematic.
It's very problematic.
Yeah.
And it's troublesome. I'm not excusing it, but I think some of it is related to the implications in the novels that, the death penalty was the...
Yeah. Yes.
If you get convicted of murder, you are going to be sentenced to death, kind of, presumption. So I think that's more of... what am I trying to say here?
It justifies it more, but it's still icky.
It makes it make more sense.
Yeah. I forgot to mention, there's this whole thing with a faked accident. We completely ignored it, and it's not integral to the plot at all.
Yeah.
Just ignore that when you're listening.
Yeah,
fake accident, not important. What's the thing you wanted to say?
So, another thing Poirot does, and he did this in the last, the Agatha Christie's Poirot episode that we watched, is be like, well, let me call over Mr. Oliver to console this woman whose man is now going to be now a murderer.
Yeah.
And we talk about how he ain't social.
Yeah, that's true. He's very Dolly Poirot-esque in these last two.
Yeah, not Parton, but
No.
Levi Gallagher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Could not remember her full name.
So Oliver puts his arm around Egg to comfort her, and she says, "Take me to my mother." It's
And
a little icky.
yeah.
But all right.
Mr. Satterthwaite also asked Poirot, I was like, why? Sometimes you speak perfectly good English,
Oh, yeah.
and sometimes you don't. And he's like, oh, I'm fooling people. I like bringing people's mild disdain to me because it makes me so much more unobtrusive as a person.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's smart. And also, I'd had noticed that throughout Poirot, of like, sometimes he's like there's that moment in Murder on the Orient Express with Kenneth Branagh where he's like, it is full of the fudge.
Right.
Which is like fun, and then he's fine other times. It's very interesting.
Yeah. He puts it on.
But the best line of the novel
Go for it.
is Mr. Satterthwaite is like, oh my gosh, I just realized I could have drunk the poison. It could have been me. And Poirot goes, well, you haven't thought of it. It could have been worse. And he's like, what do you mean? It could have been me.
Yeah.
Which is...
He
drops.
End of book. End of book.
Yep. Okay, what did we think about this book?
Oh boy, who's going first?
Tyler looks like he's got some opinions.
I always go first.
I know, because you got like I see flames.
No.
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 Not flames. Maybe some steam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're at a 10 this time.
We're at a 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give it 5 stashes.
5 stashes.
5 stashes.
Okay.
It was a long pull to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It was real basic. At times. I knew who did it from like the first chapter. I didn't know how, but I knew.
All right.
Yeah.
And that bothered me. That like I couldn't figure out how he did. Like
Yeah.
I didn't entertain any other
Really?
person throughout the entire book. I was just like, but how did he do it?
Mm.
Because I knew he did it, and I just
Of course.
couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
But that final chapter was just so beautiful. And it was just, I almost excused all the BS that we went through to get there because of how well done that final chapter was.
Yep.
And that's why it gets a 5.
Yep. So I'm going to give it 6 for similar reasons. And I think the actual beginning of the book pretty good. Like when we're at the party, we're the death happens really fast. We get into it real fast. And then Poirot leaves and we deal with all this nonsense and all of this like side chatter for so much of the book with no Poirot and no Hastings. I mean, Mr. S is fine, but it's just like so much. It's such a slog. Yeah. And then we've got lots of gross misogyny. We've got lots of gross like xenophobia and all this stuff. And then we get to this beautiful last chapter, which is classic perfect Poirot. And it's so delightful. And I don't know how she messed up so much of this book. And then, like, basically, if we had the last chapter is a 10.
Yeah.
Last chapter is amazing. And if we had gotten there in a better way, I would have loved it. Or a quicker way. I had the thought, I'm going to probably really like seeing adaptations of this. Yeah. Because I feel like they probably fixed a lot of stuff, hopefully, in these adaptations. And one of the things I didn't say at the beginning, because I didn't want to spoil it, because Mr. S was, he was there, so he was a suspect. They replace him with Hastings.
That's smart.
In, I think, both of the TV adaptations.
That's smart.
Because it's like, why are we introducing this other character? Apparently he had been in a couple of other Agatha Christie novels before she started getting into Poirot. But he's such a bland milquetoast character that we don't need... Hastings has... I mean, we go through our ups and downs with Hastings, but he's got his personality, and he's fun to have around.
He's milk steak as opposed to milk toast.
Yeah, there you go.
I would give it a 5.
Yeah.
Much for the same reason. It suffers from second act slog. Like that's it. It's just if you literally, the other thing, what sucks about the second act of this book, if you cut out the entire second act and just had Poirot show up when he does, the novel would be fine.
It's the same.
It would.
Yeah, they could have just caught him back up.
You don't even need to. They don't even really need to do that because he does his own like little investigation, and all the pertinent information happens in the third act anyway.
Yeah, there's barely anything that Cartwright and Mr. S find out without Poirot.
Yeah,
that
is relevant.
That is relevant, and it was interesting because I read a summary of it just to make sure that I had my brain wrapped around it, and the summary almost entirely ignores.
Yeah,
really
all of that.
Yes. Same on the Wikipedia. Like, it's just like, and they go investigate, and then Poirot shows up.
That's the summary I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things I was like, it's kind of like, it basically, what it sounds like is this, to me. Agatha wanted to try something new with her formulas of her book, because she'd done so many.
Sure.
And this one, she was like trying something out, and it just didn't work. Because I don't think this happens ever again with Poirot. I hope. I pray.
I mean, we got a lot of books to go.
I wish. I'm gonna. But that's kind of what it feels like. Like, she was like, okay, I like this idea of an actor trying to play essentially Poirot, which is kind of fun conceptually, but since it isn't Poirot, like, there is that episode of Doctor Who where the Doctor shows up and there's already a doctor in this timeline.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out he's a fake doctor.
But that's...
And, like, if it had been more like that,
sure.
Like, if Charles Cartwright was literally impersonating Hercule Poirot,
that would have fascinating.
Been hysterical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as it stands, it's just about a egotistical jerk killing people and tricking people. Like, it's not interesting in the slightest.
Yeah. Yep.
But we don't have to listen to it again.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean,
we just have to watch it. Watch it all unfold again and again.
And I think we might have a better time with that.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah. So
it's only an hour long.
Yeah. Yeah. At the very least.
At the very least.
I'm looking forward to that, but we are not going to get to it for a while because it's a 2010 episode.
Oh my gosh.
That I did look into. I IMDb'd where it falls.
Poirot ended when? 2014?
Well, it's a British series, so much like Midsummer Murder, which has been like going on for like 20 years.
Yeah.
But they only do like 2 or 3 episodes a year.
Oh, okay.
And then like you'll have like a long stretch where it's like, we decided to do 10 episodes, and then like back to 3 the next year. Like it's just very odd. Right. So it will be a long time before we get there.
Yeah, because like Black Books, which is another BBC series, did like its first series, and then 5 years later did its second series.
Yeah.
Which is okay. I mean, I guess it's government funded, so.
And like Luther as well. Like we have like these giant gaps, and like season 5 just happened when it started back when I was in college.
Yeah. I mean, American TV just works differently.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, that's this book.
Yeah.
And
I think
we'll be back with an episode of the television show Agatha Christie's Poirot
real soon.
In a couple weeks, probably.
Yes.
Happy MLK Junior Day, everyone. Hope you have the ability or whether appropriateness to turn it into a day of service in some way.
Anyway, I call this meeting adjourned.
Gavel sound.